What is up, everybody? We are back on the Lasagna Show tonight after another New York Yankees win. Definitely feels really good to get another W on the road. But man, the end of that game was so fucking annoying. Like, that was so unnecessary. You didn't have to go to some of your higher leverage guys in a 6-0 game. And you just end up using, almost all of your primary setup guys in a game where you shouldn't have had to use them. Especially when you bring out some of your higher leverage guys. They're used to a certain amount of adrenaline when they come in the game. Leiter Jr. has been pretty good lately. He's scuffled a little bit. Cruz is pretty solid still. Devin Williams has been, he's been much better down the stretch. But there was no reason to not let Clark Schmidt start the seventh. He only had 91 pitches. He'd been cruising all game. Cruising. If there was high stress, if he'd been struggling, if there was a lot of runners on base, a lot of traffic all game, if he was like missing his location, walking guys all over the place, pitch count high, early innings, then okay, it's a stressful game. You would end up pulling him, after 5 or 6 there. But Clark was cruising all night. If there was ever going to be a time where you would let Clark stretch a little bit, start the seventh. He only had 91 pitches, cruising all night, comfortable, looked good, looked solid, looked in control. Let him start the seventh. You're in a stretch now where they're in a stretch right now where they're not going to have a day off until I think the 26th of the month. So you're going to have to save your bullets in that bullpen as much as possible and pick your spots to let a starter get deep in a game, to not use your setup guys when you don't have to. So 6-0 game, Hedrick's in there, and then they got to go to Cruz, and then they got to go to Leiter Jr., and then they got to go to Devin Williams. You just burned 4 arms in a game where you were up 6-0. Completely unnecessary. And then people are like, oh, how does the bullpen get burned out? That's how you burn a bullpen right there. Completely unnecessary, uncalled for. Having, 3 of your primary end-of-game guys having to come into a 6-0 game. It's completely unnecessary, especially in a stretch where, you're not going to have a day off for, over 2 weeks. So definitely irritating way to end that game. Typical Aaron Boone type shit, but a win is a win. That was a fantastic win for most of the game there. The 3 runs at the end were completely annoying as fuck. But let's start with Clark Schmidt, man. Let's start with the pitching. So in his last 40.1 innings pitched, he's got a 2.90 ERA. Oftentimes you see a lot of Clark Schmidt slander up and down the timeline. Like, oh, Clark Schmidt sucks. Called him Clark shit. All the nicknames and complaining and stuff like that. I just don't understand it. For what he is, a 3, 4, 5 starter, middle of the rotation, end of the rotation guy, he does exactly what you want him to do. So for his last 40 innings pitched to have an ERA under 3, that's phenomenal. It's even better than what you expect from him. So we'll take that every day of the week. 8 of his 10 starts this year, he's gone 5 innings pitched with 3 runs or less. That's all you want from your 3-starter, your 4-starter. Get me 5 or 6 innings, keep the game within reach, allow 2 or 3 runs or less, and give the offense a chance. That's what he does every time he goes out, and that's what the expectation should be. If he gives up 5 or 6 runs, he didn't do his job, like anyone else. But he is one of the most reliable, quality start type of pitchers in baseball right now, and one of the better 3 to 5 slot in the rotation guys in the whole league. So we definitely need to start appreciating him more. So what's kind of crazy is, in today's league, it's heavy fastball, high velocity, everything's, hard fastball, highest average velocity probably ever this season. I had to look that up, but I would bet that it is. And he's completely the opposite. His 3 highest usage pitches tonight were all off-speed stuff, all secondary stuff. So his most used pitch tonight was a cutter at 37%. He's not throwing a 4-seam much at all. He's going cutter very heavy all game, 37%. His second most used pitch was a sweeper, 26%. One of the best pitches in baseball. That pitch is unbelievable. The spin rate he gets on that, you hear David Cohen say it on the telecast. He's gifted in terms of spinning the baseball, and his spin rate on that sweeper is just stupid. And then 20% knuckle curve was his 3rd most pitched. And you're not getting to a 4-seam fastball until his 4th most used pitch at 11% tonight. So in a league where everyone's pounding hard heaters and high velocity, everything, this and that coming out of the bullpen, starting pitchers, he's completely the opposite, and he's one of the better mid-rotation guys in the league. So kudos to him for doing that. He had a 24% whiff rate on the night. So I think a good whiff rate is about 30%. He's right up there. So it's pretty impressive that he can pitch backwards. Cutter, sweeper, knuckle curve are the three most used pitches he throws in the game, like tonight. And he's still getting 30% whiff against a team in the Royals who coming into the night were pretty good against breaking ball pitchers. So tip of the cap to Clark Schmidt. Going back to his knuckle curve and his sweeper, his knuckle curve, middle of the game, I think this was his numbers coming into tonight's start. A 156 batting average against that knuckle curve, and a 32% whiff rate, which is phenomenal. Even better, the sweeper, a 114 batting average against, which is crazy, and a 37% whiff rate, which is top shelf. So Clark Schmidt is much better than his reputation on Twitter shows. And it'd be nice to see some in the fan base start to appreciate him a little bit, because that's a pitcher a lot of teams would want. So let me get through a lot of comments here. Let me see what we got going on here. What is up, everybody who was in the chat saying what's up? I'm trying to scroll through and say what's up to all you guys. John and Matt B. We got Ray in here, Michael Brooks, Kyle Malay, Nico Demo. I hope I said that right. Gina, thank you for reposting. Bernard in here. That's my guy. Mike, what's up? Everybody's in here. So definitely great to see. Bernard says Schmidt will get back to last year's form. He pitched like a 2 before he got hurt. He can achieve that form again. Peraza clearly has to go. It's painful. He adds little. Give someone else a look. Clark Schmidt, going over some of the numbers we just talked about, he's got, 2 of the nastiest pitches in baseball, I think, in that knuckle curve and his sweeper. I'm not a huge fan of his cutter, but he throws it a lot and it seems to be very effective. So that's good. He can pitch like a 2, I would say, ceiling wise. I think he's more of a 3, because there are some times where he gets beat by lefties. He tries to get that cutter inside to a lefty and leaves it middle. It happens sometimes. He starts a game pretty shitty, and then you're like, oh my god, here we go, it's gonna be a rough start. Then he somehow finds a way to get through 5 or 6, and he has only 2 or 3 runs earned for the whole game. So he's kind of funny that way. But yeah, definitely a quality arm you have in there. If the Yankees were really looking to make an impact and add some significant piece of the deadline, if you dangle a Clark Schmidt out there, I'm sure there'd be a lot of takers, a lot of serious teams that would offer some good players for him. So, I don't think that'll happen, but, it's a luxury to have a guy like Clark Schmidt in your rotation for sure. Going back to Peraza, at this point, he's just kind of a backup infielder. He's going to, fill in. You can put him in the game and he's going to play good defense. And that's really all he's useful for at this point. So expecting anything more than that would be, a little crazy. At this point, he's just a backup infielder. There's really not much you can say about that. I don't think he's in their future plans at all. But he's a guy who can play second base, he can play third base, he can play shortstop. If Jazz gets hurt like tonight, which is unfortunate, something that's followed Jazz for most of his career, all these injuries, all the soft tissue stuff. Definitely unfortunate. But you can plug in a Peraza off the bench, and he's going to catch the damn ball out there. So bare minimum, in a lineup like this that's this deep, with all these guys with above average OPSs, you can afford to have a guy down towards the end who's a glove guy primarily, and just hope he catches the ball when he's playing defense. And if you get anything out of him offensively, it's a W. So I can't get really too upset about Peraza unless he was going to start every day and they were committing to him, long term. I think he's shown enough sample size that he is not going to be a guy who can contribute with the bat. So it is what it is. Kyle says Schmidt doesn't give up more than 3 runs a game most nights. You're right. I think there's only been 1 game this year where you give up 5 runs. I think every game other than that has been 3 runs or less, that's big time. It's Major League Baseball, man. These hitters are very well read. They do their scouting reports. They're out there, crushing everything in sight. So for Clark Schmidt to be, you can pencil Clark Schmidt in almost every night for 3 runs or less. That's phenomenal. Ray C says Peraza playing the next couple of weeks with the groin of Jazz. Yuck. Yeah, not ideal. Again, this is one of the best lineups in baseball, arguably the best numbers wise. If you want to go, OPS and weighted runs created plus and home runs, doubles, RBIs, all that stuff. It's one of the best offenses in baseball. So they can afford to have a glove only guy at one of their positions and bury him at the bottom of the order and cross your fingers. Every now and then he does run into a homer. He can slap a single. So, you expect him to catch the ball, and anything else you get from him is a huge win. So It's going to be interesting to see how long Jazz is going to be out for. A groin is nothing to mess with. Hopefully, it's just a little bit of tightness. He didn't actually pull it. It could be a 5 to 7 day thing rather than a multiple week thing. Fingers crossed that it's something minor. So he's hitting the ball really well, and you want to see him in the lineup. You want to see him in there when Stanton gets back here soon, and see this thing firing on all cylinders with all of our best players in the order. So it's going to be interesting to see what that comes out to be tomorrow in terms of Jazz's groin. So fingers crossed he's okay. Speaking of his offense, interesting stat I saw during the game: the most 5+ run innings through 66 games in the last 50 years. The 2000 Rockies, they play in Colorado. Come on. 2023 Rangers won a championship, and the 2025 Yankees. There's only 3 teams. The Rockies had 19 games of 5+ runs in one inning. 2023 Rangers had 18. Yankees have 17 in 2025. And we're only, three months into the season? So this is a prolific offense. This is one of the deepest lineups in all of baseball. The lowest OPS in the Yankees lineup today, entering the game today, the lowest OPS was 773. That's crazy. I think league average is around 710-ish. So you're 60 points higher than league average on the OPS with your worst OPS in the lineup. That's big time. This is one of the most balanced Yankee lineups I can think of. I threw that out there on Twitter, and I think a lot of people were referencing maybe 2017, maybe 2019 was the last time. A lot of people were saying 2009 was the last time we had a lineup this deep, this balanced, this prolific 1 through 9. I haven't Googled it. I haven't, gone over the numbers and see if that's true or not. But it does feel like one of the better lineups I could remember, at least over the last decade. So it's nice to see some of the young guys hitting. It's nice to see some veteran mix in there, like a Goldschmidt, a Bellinger, also hitting as well at Jazz. Trent Grisham, Aaron Judge is, an alien, a cyborg. He is not from this world. I know we got the Martian on our team, but I think Aaron Judge is the most likely guy that's not from this planet, if you're being honest with yourself. But the offense looks phenomenal. Looks fantastic. Going back to Aaron Judge, he hit a ball that was 99 miles an hour and looked like it was rising to the top of the strike zone, flipped it the other way. I think it was 108 miles an hour over the wall. The guy is he's on everything. Soft pitching, crushed yesterday. 99 up in the zone, crushed the other way. Like, this guy is tagging everything within the strike zone. So definitely something we want to watch throughout the rest of the season. Can he hit 400? I don't think so, but the more he does this, it seems somewhat realistic with the approach that he's brought into this season. He's got 25 home runs. He's hitting 395, and he's got a 1269 OPS. The guy is crazy. He's going to have 30 home runs at the All-Star game, maybe 32. I know for a lot of guys, 28 to 30 is a great season's worth of homers. He's going to have that at the halfway point. So we are beyond spoiled to be able to watch Aaron Judge every day on this team. And I look forward to watching him more. He's a guy you can rely on all season. We want to see that postseason success. We want to see it so bad. This feels like one of the better lineups they've had. The rotation feels pretty solid, especially getting Luis Hill back. Bullpen, they can use getting a Luke Weaver back. They can use a couple ads at the deadline. But this is a very complete team. As it's been very well stated, the American League is not that strong. Obviously, if we face Detroit, we're going to have our hands full. But, that looks like what might be the most likely ALCS matchup just for now. Things can change as the season goes on. But, it feels like this is a great year for the Yankees to get back to the World Series and try to right the wrong that was last year. So, hopefully guys continue to stay healthy. Hopefully Jazz doesn't miss too much time if he misses any. Stanton comes back healthy. They figure out the rotation with Ben Rice. Offense continues to click, and we just see where this thing goes. It's one of the better chances we've had since last year and in the last decade or more. So it's going to be a team where they're going to be in the thick of it. Maybe you face Houston in the playoffs, maybe the Guardians again, maybe the Tigers. But this is a team that matches up very well with them and should beat them. So if they take care of business this year, hopefully they're back in the World Series, and you cross your fingers. You're facing, whoever from the National League, because National League's really good. But this team can compete. Feels like a solid chance this year. So we'll see how it all goes. Ray C says that stat is basically the definition of opportunist, a key trait for postseason success. I'm not sure what stat you were referring to there. Mike says the balance of this line was phenomenal. It's very dynasty era feel. Doesn't feel like there's any black holes offensively 1 through 9. Absolutely. If Peraza gets in there and gets some run, he'll be kind of a black hole. But the rest of the lineup is doing their thing, man. It's really fun to watch. Bernard says only balance because Soto took the money in Flushing. Oh, you're killing me with the Soto stuff, Bernard. You're killing me with the Soto stuff over here. Oh man, what is today? June 11th. I just gotta check something real quick. So my guy Bernard, he texts me every day with the Juan Soto update on the batting average and what he's doing for the day and stuff like that. For a guy who was tagged as having the worst start to his career, absolute bum, all these different things, he's got an 854 OPS still, which is crazy. For a guy to get as much slander as he got, obviously he got a huge contract, obviously, biggest contract ever. But a lot of hitters in baseball would take a worst start to your whole career for an 850 OPS. So I think that'll eventually be 900 plus, and everything will be fine. And everyone will forget about the Juan Soto slow start. But I don't think about the Mets ever, really. Every now and then I mess around with Mets fans on Twitter. I'll post a Soto thing. I'll post a Mets thing. I just really don't care about the Mets. What was that famous Jeter video you see all over Twitter? They're just the Mets. I'm just not interested in following the Mets. I know a lot of Yankee fans talk about them often and check on them, and maybe it's because I don't live in New York. It could be the thing. I don't see Mets fans ever. I don't think about them. I don't talk to them other than Twitter. So, they just don't move the needle for me. So, whatever the Mets are doing, that's cool. We'll see them when we face them. If we end up in the World Series with them, that'll be fun. But it's one of those things. I just don't think about the Mets on a day-to-day basis. I don't. It is what it is. And some of them think about the Yankees all the time. That's cool. A lot of Yankee fans think about the Mets all the time. That's cool too. But I'm not one of them. So it is what it is. Going back to our prolific offense, one of the best in the American League, one of the best in all of baseball, DJ LeMahieu, man, he is continuing to absolutely hit the ball very well. He had a walk today, scored a run, had another hit. His OPS is up to 769, which is fantastic. It's phenomenal. If he can keep anything close to this up, do the Yankees even make a move for a second baseman / third baseman / whatever the hell utility infielder at the deadline? I don't know. If he's going to keep hitting like this, there's no need to. And he can play defense. He still looks somewhat athletic. His lower half looks fine. Obviously, there's going to be some concerns if he can stay healthy. We don't know if he can or not. He's getting up there in age. So, usually a guy that big, 6'4", 240 probably is what he is. Moving around like that, diving all over the place, running the bases, hitting all those different things. With a history of lower half injuries, especially the feet, you get a little scared about the workload there. So if he can stay healthy and maintain anything close to this pace, an OPS maybe around like 720, maybe 715, a huge victory for the Yankees, and they will get every dollar's worth left that they owe him if he can do that. So that is definitely something we can keep track of. And, according to some stats I was seeing on Twitter, this is the highest exit velocity he's had since 2019. So, in 2019, he was still a really good player. He's hitting the ball hard, his lower half, and your lower half has to be there as a hitter. You're digging your feet in the ground, you're rotating those hips. Explosiveness in the lower half is everything for a hitter. So if his feet were jacked up, if his base wasn't good, if he wasn't balanced, if he wasn't, having that solid base in the batter's box, he was going to struggle. He's going to be off balance. He's going to hit balls in the ground and not be able to run to first base. So if he is indeed fully healthy right now and feeling as good as he says he does, we're seeing it. And it's reflecting in the stats, it's reflecting in the numbers, it's reflecting in his hard hit rate and exit velocity. And it's amazing to see. So hopefully it continues for sure. Austin Wells today, another great day. Scored a run, had another hit. I think he had a double. Yep, he had a double, drove in a run. So, he's looking great. I think he's one of the top 5 hitters in baseball. He's got 11 homers, 42 RBIs, 769 OPS for Austin Wells. I posted that on Twitter yesterday, and some people were like, oh, they were naming a handful of other players that were that they thought were better than Austin Wells. But if you're just looking at the raw numbers right in front of you right now, if you look at his home run, RBI, and OPS production, and you combine that with his frame, his ability to frame, which is top 3 in the league, and his overall defensive metric, which he's I think top 6. You add the damage on the offense, you add the framing, you add the overall defensive rating. You got a top 5 catcher in baseball. Sorry, I know some people have their picks, but they're either lacking in framing, or they're lacking in the overall defensive metric, or they don't have enough, or they don't have as many homers or RBIs. So I think the complete package, Wells is doing it on both sides of the ball. He's hitting and he's playing great defense. So I think if you're looking at the raw numbers right in front of you, add everything together, I think he's a top 5 catcher in baseball right now. Things could change. Doesn't mean, by the end of the season it's going to stay that way. We don't know how this thing is going to unfold. But if he ends up with 25 homers, 90 RBIs, 765, 770, 775 OPS, and he's still top 5 in framing and overall defensive metrics, how can you not say he's a top 5 catcher in baseball? So that's where I stand on that. I look forward to watching him blossom throughout the rest of the season. As you've seen me say before on Twitter, I want him to get 500 plate appearances, 600 plate appearances. I want to see him get his free run, because I think there's a lot of potential on that bat, and we're seeing it play out in front of us in real time. So definitely exciting to continue to watch Austin Wells do his thing. Let's see. Bernard said, Mike said Soto is a perfect example. Sometimes when you lose, you win. Yeah, the Yankees filled out the rest of their roster with Devin Williams, with Cody Bellinger, with a Max Fried. They added a Cruz. They added some other guys. So it's worked out pretty well. They filled out the roster, spread the money around, and it is what it is. Bernard says Soto has been very low impact. I don't know. I think he'll be fine. I just, if there was like a list of things I'd be concerned about in Major League Baseball, Soto would be at the very bottom. I just think he's a very talented guy. He's only 26. He's in his prime. He probably struggled with the change of scenery and wearing the whole reputation of having the most lucrative contract in baseball history. So, 26-year-old gets a payday like that. Everyone's looking at him. Everyone's, calling him names from Yankee Stadium and on Twitter and social media, blah, blah, blah. It looked like he probably didn't handle that very well starting the season. It is what it is. He's human. I mean, that's, if you want to try to explain why that slow start happened, that's probably the explanation. I'm not in the dugout. I don't know him personally. I don't know what the hell is going on, but all the different metrics were showing that he was hitting the ball hard. He just had horrible fucking luck. So, he's still hitting the ball hard, and we're starting to say the luck reverse. That's just the nature of baseball. If you've been incredibly unlucky and you continue to hit the ball hard, things are going to change up. So I expect by the end of the season, he's going to be, close to the usual numbers he has every other season. He's a phenomenal player, but I wish he was on the Yankees still. I know the Yankees did a lot of great things with spreading the wealth around and, adding different guys and increasing their depth. And it probably did work out for the better, but seeing Juan Soto in pinstripes for the next 10 to 15 years would have been awesome, but it is what it is. It's over with. It's done. I'm done talking about it. Let's see. Mike says I grew up in Flushing. It's easier to avoid when you're outside of New York. Yeah, I mean, I got my own problems with Dodger fans over here, so I'm more worried about those bastards. But it is what it is. I can't go anywhere with a Yankee hat on and get weird looks from people laughing at me. How about the World Series, bro? I get it. I watched it. It's over with. I'm pissed off. I'm sad. I almost jumped off a bridge. So that's what it is. I'm just kidding. I didn't do that. Don't believe my craziness. Ray C says DJ got robbed with bases loaded, double play too. Yeah, he did smoke that ball. Franco made a great play. It is what it is. That was like a Ben Rice-esque unlucky type of contact there. So, some tough luck going around with some of these Yankees. Javier says, with Stan coming back, save the trades for the pitching. Yeah, fill that bullpen up with high-octane powered arms, man. Maybe add a slider guy like that dude Bird in Colorado. And fill that bullpen out and build that setup, group so you can get to the playoffs and you can utilize some high-end stuff. At the end of the game, you can match up well against good hitters and you could keep a game close or preserve a lead. That's the key. I think the starting pitching is going to be good enough, but you got to solidify the back end of that bullpen to make sure you hold on to leads in close games in the playoffs. Huge priority. Bernard says he's got his way down. It's helping him, DJ. Yeah, I mean, he's still a 6'4", big dude with huge legs. He's got to be 230, 240 at this point. I'd be shocked if he was any lighter than that. The guy's huge. So, but he does look in good shape. If you got lower half issues, you got foot problems, you got to keep the weight off. Take less stress off your feet, take less stress off your lower half. So He looks phenomenal. This is as good as I could have possibly hoped for DJ LeMahieu, and I hope he continues. Mike says, yeah, if DJ is still holding it down, no reason to go shopping. It's true. He said maybe a bench piece later or something other than pitching. Yeah, I'd be interested to see what this deadline looks like. Matt B says he reposted the stream. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Javier says best show on YouTube. You're the man, Javier. Thank you for being in here. I love when you guys are hopping in here, talking baseball and having some fun with me. So definitely something I really enjoy, and I look forward to these Monday through Thursday shows with you guys. Absolutely. Bernard says Wells is starting to rake. He's got his swing on and he's hitting righties and lefties. That's a very interesting point because his reverse splits are crazy. Let me see if I could pull them up really quick. But it's crazy how last season I think he had 0 home runs in all of his at-bats against lefties. And then this season I think he has 5. So, he's staying in there. When it comes to lefties facing lefties, sometimes lefties got those weird sidearm angles or, things look a little different lefty on lefty. You got to keep that front shoulder inside. You can't pull off. You can't pull off of a breaking ball that looks like it's coming at you and breaking in the strike zone. And he's doing that beautifully, man. He's keeping that front shoulder in. He is punishing pitches over the middle of the plate, and he is getting his pitch, and he is not missing it. So I'm super excited for that. Yeah, Austin Wells versus lefties. He's got an 891 OPS against righties. He got a 705. So he is 180 something points higher on the OPS against lefties. That's crazy from a lefty. So, you usually don't worry about a lefty's ability to hit right-handers. I think, those numbers will come up naturally. But if he's hitting lefties, which is the hard part for lefties already, hey, that's a massive victory there. Bubic came into the game, starting pitcher for the Royals. He had the best ERA in the American League. So, best American League ERA start the game. One of the best offensive in all of baseball, if not the best offensive all in baseball. And, he gave up a handful of runs. We punished him. It was 5-0 after 2, and that was pretty much it. Royals only scratched across 3 runs there late as their consolation prize as they went down with a little bit, gave their fans a little bit of a show. But yeah, it was a fantastic game. Cody Bellinger, I think, had a triple. Yeah, Bellinger had a triple. Judge had a homer. A double from Volpe. Did you guys that right there from Volpe, man? It was just, I just can't explain enough how much I love to see that. He's got really good hands. You can't hit if you go find the highlight of Volpe's double. That pitch got so deep in the strike zone, and he waited and waited and waited and just whipped the barrel. He's got strong hands. He's got good hands. He's got quick hands. And when you have good, strong, quick hands, you can let the ball travel and get deep on you. And all he did was just flip it the other way down the right field line. He got himself a double. His inside-out approach and his opposite field approach is, when that's clicking, is the best version of Anthony Volpe of all the versions of him. That doesn't mean I'm asking him to only slap singles the other way. I'm not asking for that. But when he's not trying to pull for power and he's willing to go the other way and take what the pitcher gives him, that is the best version of Anthony Volpe he can possibly be. So I love the 776 OPS from Volpe. I hope he continues there doing that. My goal for him coming into the season, I just wanted Volpe to have an OPS of 700 flat for the whole year. So he's on track to do that unless he has just an astronomically horrible July, August, September. But right now it looks pretty sustainable. I think his approach is one of the better approaches I've seen since he's been with the big club. He's taking what the pitcher's giving him. He's willing to go the other way. He's willing to shorten up 2 strikes. And the power comes naturally. You've seen it from him. I think he leads the Yankees in doubles. So he's able to hit for power. He's willing to split a gap. He's got 8 homers. He's got 38 RBIs. I think he's on track for 90, maybe 90 plus at this point in June. So, this is about as good as we could have possibly hoped for Anthony Volpe, and I really hope it continues. Some other news, we have Giancarlo Stanton that is very, very close to coming back. Possibility he might be coming up this weekend in Boston. We know he loves to hit in Boston. I would love to see that. From what I've seen so far in Double A, he's hitting everything thrown at him. So if the guy if he's got 3 or 4 games under his belt, by the time we're heading to Boston, I'm not heading to Boston, but the time the Yankees are going this Friday, might want to think about it. It'd be interesting to see him get up with a big club, start seeing some major league pitching, and start working his way back into finding his rhythm offensively. In embarrassment of riches at this point, because the best offense in baseball is getting a Giancarlo Stanton back. That is huge. So I'd love to see him hit the ground running as soon as he gets in there and starts crushing baseballs over the Green Monster like we all know he can. What is up, Jacob? Good to see you in here. You're a Geeky Dirtbag. Reposted. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Donnie says, what's up? What's going on, Donnie? Ray C says he went up on high cheese. Yes, he certainly did. Donnie said, can you say home run king and triple crown? Yeah, I mean, that's one of the only things left for Aaron Judge to do outside of win a championship. I mean, win a triple crown. I don't think he has a gold glove either. But man, if he can keep the batting average up, I think he's going to finish the year leading in homers. If guys keep getting on base in front of him and he's driving them in RBIs wise, he absolutely can win a triple crown. I know one of my friends on Twitter, Will, big Tigers fan, he wasn't too fond of a Yankee getting a triple crown, says Miggy Cabrera was the last one to get that. So I think Tiger fans are kind of rooting against that. But, a triple crown is pretty rare. I mean, before Miggy Cabrera, I don't know when the last one was, but I think it was quite a while. So very interesting to see if Aaron Judge can finish the job and do that. Jacob says Volpe leads the team with 19 doubles. Absolutely. Great to see that. Donnie says Will Warren probably goes to the pen when Hill comes back. I don't think so. I think Warren's going to stay in there. They love his stuff. He's shown in the minors that he can pitch, I think 130-ish innings or more. So he's built up as a long-term starter. I think Yarbrough would offer a lot of versatility in terms of middle relief. He's a guy that can get in there and eat innings in a 6-0 game like this today. It would have been amazing to have Yarbrough just come in, pitch 2 or 3 innings to finish the game and be done. You don't got to dig deep into your bullpen. You don't got to use your setup guys. You can save your bullets with some of the guys that you want to keep their workload down over time, over the course of the season. And I think a Stroman I know I said Stroman, jump scare. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. My apologies. A guy like that who you can bring in a blowout. 6-0 is not a blowout, but it's still comfortable. You can give up 2 or 3 runs and still be okay. You can go to your closer like they did when you need to, which is why I would have just brought in Hamilton and said, go as long as you can, buddy. Go get him. If he gives up 3 runs, so what? We'll bring in Devin Williams and figure it out later. But Yarbrough in the bullpen would be a big help in terms of keeping the workload down for some of those other guys. In a game like today, there was no need to use 4 relievers in a game like today when you're up 6-0, but it is what it is. Gina says, Big G, it's going to be great to see him back. My respect grew so much for Stanton after that World Series, man. After the playoffs, after the homer he hit off Bybee against the Guardians, the homer he hit over the freaking foul pole in L.A. in Game 1 against Jack Flaherty. He just, we were all waiting for that Judge moment in the World Series in the first 3 games in L.A. or first 2 games in L.A. and then, Game 3 was in New York. But, Stanton's presence, his demeanor, a guy you can trust. He's just I just respect the guy a ton. And, I hope he can get right this season and stay healthy back in the playoffs and help us try to deliver a world championship again. Because Judge and Garrett Cole are only getting older. Same with Stanton. You can't rely on him every postseason as he gets close to the 40. Eventually trees don't grow to the sky. So that's going to run out eventually. And, hopefully before that does run out, we can get a championship first one since 2009. So fingers crossed that this might be the year. Who knows? Donnie says, I think Volpe is one of the best shortstops in the game right now. I agree. Racy says Stroman suggested today that he's okay with not starting. Thank God. Some humility from that man. Coming off of his hard stance before the season about, I'm only a starter, blah, blah, blah. I think his comment earlier was, I'm just trying to find a way onto the squad and help them, which is the best, that's the best mindset to have, especially for him when he knows there's no room for him in the rotation. There's nothing we want to see from him in the rotation. We already saw everything that he can possibly be is not good. He nibbles too much. He's afraid to come in the strike zone. He's one of those guys who's trying to get a lot of chase, and guys just weren't chasing his stuff. And then he'd miss middle and he'd get smacked, and that's just how things went for him. So if he's willing to be a bullpen guy, if he's willing to be a mop-up, if he's willing to come in and just bridge the gap to the end of the game during a blowout, that'd be a huge help. Either him or Yarbrough, one of those guys, definitely would be beneficial to the bullpen. D-Rails 93 says Yankees are the 6th best team in baseball. Why do you say they're the 6th best team in baseball? Because I'm looking at the overall rankings right here. Yankees have the 3rd best record in baseball, and they're only 2 games off the best record in baseball. So, who are your teams you're putting ahead of them right now? Because there's really not many you can put ahead of them. Dodgers are down to 5. They kind of have our number, but we might not, if they don't make it to the World Series and we do get to the World Series, we're not going to see them again. So it is what it is. But yeah, the Mets right now, best record in baseball. They're only a half game up on Detroit. Yankees are third, only 2 games off, and then the Cubs are 3 games off, the best record in baseball. So, a lot of National League teams up there, but Detroit is hanging around. Houston is down there, only 6.5 off of the best record in baseball. So, it's still relatively early. It's hard to make, big time proclamations in June. Still have a month till the All-Star break and the trade deadline and all that kind of stuff. So, still a whole lot of baseball to go. A lot can unfold between now and then. So, it's a good start. It's positive. Things we want to see. The team's trending in the right direction. Pitching is pretty good. Bullpen needs some work, but still solid. Lineup is fantastic, best in baseball. So a lot of things to look forward to and a lot of fun to watch on a nightly basis. So tomorrow we are going to be facing Seth Lugo. We got Will Warren on the hill. I like Will Warren pitching in that ballpark. You got big gaps, pretty deep outfield, not easy to hit homers there. So looking forward to Will Warren, being aggressive in the strike zone, understanding his stuff is really, really good. Pounding the zone, changing speeds, keeping guys off balance, and doing his thing. With his stuff, he should come in confident every start. Every start. He had a hiccup against the Dodgers, but I think he's shown to himself that his stuff is good enough to compete at this level, at the major league level, and he should definitely utilize that stuff and use it to his advantage for sure. Isaac says, "What's up, man? Hey, how's it going, man? Nice to have you in here." D-Rails93 says, "Mets, Dodgers, Tigers, Phillies, Cubs, Padres. The Padres are not better than the Yankees, so stop right there. Phillies, that's a stretch. Cubs, maybe. Tigers, you got a case there. Dodgers own us, and the Mets, we just beat the Mets in the series not too long ago, so I don't think your ranking is accurate there, buddy. But I appreciate having you in the chat and talking some baseball because it helps, move things along. All right, guys, that is going to do it for us tonight. Hopefully we hit Seth Lugo pretty well. If you're watching on Twitter and you have not subscribed to the Lasagna Show, what are you waiting for? Go to my Twitter, click the blue link in my bio, subscribe to the Lasagna Show, like this video from tonight, like all the other ones too. You might as well. When you're in there, you might as well just like everything. Copy the link to the show, send it to your friends, send it to your family, and let's have some fun watching baseball together for the rest of the year. But that'll do it for me tonight. Have a great rest of your night, guys. Go Yankees, and we will see you tomorrow. Peace.